All right, here we go. We are live. Welcome back to the Existentialists. I'm Tony B, and with me today is my lovely partner, Miguel. Miguel, say hi to the crowd.
Hi, crowd. How's everyone doing? I hope you're all having a wonderful Tuesday evening with Tony and I. Tony, I am excited. You know what today is?
Oh yeah. It's the political battle of our lives, the fight for the soul of America.
Oh, I like the picture you included on YouTube too. Anyway, okay.
Yes.
So today is very important because today is a special election in what state, Tony?
Georgia. We have a Senate runoff race in Georgia today.
You ever been to Georgia?
I have not, but I've seen Georgia on television.
The whole state?
No, mostly Atlanta.
That's fine. So tell us, who are the Republican? First of all, what level is it? Federal, state? What are we talking about here?
Of course. We are actually talking about the Senate runoff race in Georgia. This is the United States Senate. So we know there's 100 senators in the U.S. Senate. Right now, there are 2 seats in Georgia up for grabs. The Republicans hold the seats right as of now. They are the incumbents. The challengers are Democrats. And that is why it is the battle for the soul of America. Because if Democrats win, Joe Biden will have a Senate controlled by the Democrats.
And now everyone out there knows why I disappear months out of the time. Because I ask a question, and Tony doesn't answer that question. He's talking.
Didn't answer it.
Well, what was the question I asked you? What level are we talking about, federal or state? And you just went on this whole ramble. I love you, Tony. Oh. Damn, that wasn't the answer to the question. Okay, we're going to lead into it, Tony. Okay, so is it the House or the Senate? That's what we're leading into.
Girls love you because you beat around the bush.
I don't beat around the bush. I want to get to it, man. But you have to lead up to it.
No foreplay for me. Hello.
All right. So Senate. So who are the Republican candidates, Tony?
The Republican candidates are Kelly Loeffler and Perdue. I'm not sure Perdue's first name. David Perdue. These are the Republican incumbents. As you can see on the screen, Loeffler and Perdue are the Republican incumbents. That means they hold the seats in the Senate.
So then who are the Democrats?
The Democratic challengers for these 2 Senate seats are Warnock, Democratic nominee, against Loeffler. And then the other Democratic challenger is Ossoff. Pretty sure it's Warnock and Ossoff versus Loeffler and Perdue.
Okay, so now I'm gonna give you a little chance to run on a spiel here. Why is this Senate election, this special election, because the race was in November, the general election, and so obviously these 4 candidates made it to the second round in the same state. Why is this election so important in the Senate?
Right. So right now, what it is for the Biden administration, the incoming administration, they're going to have the executive branch. But in order to pass by legislation that's favorable to the Democrats, you want to have hold of both the House, which led by Nancy Pelosi. So the Democrats have the House, the Congress. But now they need the Senate. And right now, there are 2 seats that are up for grabs. So right now, it's 48 Democrats or 46 Democrats, 2 independents. Bernie Sanders is one of those independents, but they vote Democrat. So that's like 48 Democrats. And then there's 40 Republicans. The reason why this race matters is because 2 plus 48 gives the Democrats 50 seats. That's 50 versus 50. Now, that seems like a tie. In the terms of a tie, what happens is the vice president becomes the tiebreaker. That means Vice President Kamala Harris, if she can get the entire Senate Democrats on, let's just say something like Medicare for all, Kamala Harris could break the tie. She could be the 51 vote to pass legislation, get it signed by Joe Biden. Boom. we have the communist, socialist utopia that the Republicans are afraid of.
Okay.
Scratch that last part.
Since you know that I am, hold on, where's the text? Where's the text? You know me, I'm looking for it. I'll have to find it. But okay, this is very important. You are correct, Tony. See how we have a nice conversation? I ask questions, you answer, and we just gradually build. Correct. So if this is the graphic that I want to share currently, how you were saying, Tony. Currently, there are 2 seats up for grabs, which is in Georgia, and if they go to the Democrats, it's a split even tie. So you guys want to name it. Split even tie, 50-50. If the Republicans retain those 2 seats, then it'll be a slim majority for the Republicans in the Senate, and that also means that Mitch McConnell stays in power and he can just wreak havoc for the next 2 years until the next election. Extremely important. So, Tony, could you share your screen again? What are the results at the moment? Who's in the lead?
Yeah, while I do that, I want to give a shout out to crazy Daniel Mead. Everyone say hi to Daniel. Thank you, Daniel, for watching the Existentialists. Make sure you subscribe to us. There's Daniel right there on the screen, just so everyone can. He's not so in favor of leftists. I honestly think he's a troll. So we're going to run with that. But Daniel and everyone else watching, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, like, share, comment on Facebook. We greatly appreciate. Here are the current updates. This is the New York Times. This is what's happening in Georgia right now. Apparently, there's 49% of the votes being accounted for. 49%. While Warnock and Ossoff are winning, this is far from over. Right? It's exciting to see that they're winning, but we shouldn't celebrate too soon. That means the Democrats are winning right now, and we can go percentage based. So Warnock right now, he has over 1 million votes, 1,119 votes. And Loeffler, as you can see, has under 1 million votes. So 53.7% to 46.3. Looks like Warnock is going to tie this thing up, right? That's 50%. These numbers are coming in. We'll go into more. I'm not too wonky on these stats. Last time we had Miguel, one of your friends, come on, and he's a little more savvy on watching these numbers.
Oh, yeah.
We have, and so it looks like there's only a slight difference. It seems that Ossoff has a close amount to Warnock. He's only off by maybe 5,000 votes compared to Warnock. But he's beating the Republican incumbent by almost the same percentage. It's a 0.4% difference in how they're winning. But yeah, this is what's happening right now. It's pretty impressive, but I don't know. I'm of the belief that the Democrats weren't going to win Georgia. Maybe 1 seat, but I was in complete disbelief that they would win 2 seats.
Okay.
I'm bad at this.
No, you're fine. Okay, so I'm going to steal the share screen from you. I'm sorry. Okay.
Go ahead, please.
The reason why I was looking for the text, I unfortunately looked at section. I was looking at Article 2. I wanted to look at Article 1 of the Constitution. But for people out there, the Constitution is divided up into articles. Article 1 deals with the legislative. The founding fathers thought that the legislative branch was the most important of the 3 branches. That's why it comes first. Second is the executive, the president, the vice president. That's Article 2. Then Article 3 is the judiciary, so the Supreme Court and the lower courts that can be established by Congress. So Congress is actually a huge check on the judiciary. So in Article 1, Section 3, funny enough, Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, and this whole section, I had to learn it in law school. And I hate Section 8. It's just, you have the power, the spending power, the taxing power, you have the commerce power, you have any means necessary. Or means necessary. That's an ancillary power that is added here. The necessary and proper clause. That's a secondary power that Congress has in addition to those primary, which are taxing, spending power, and the Commerce Clause. Okay, but what we're here for is, sorry, sometimes I nerd out on this. Section 3 actually outlines what the vice president can do, and in Section 3, the vice of Article 1, this clause reads, the Vice President of the United States shall be President of the Senate, but shall have no vote unless they be equally divided. It basically could have written that like, hey, if there's a tie, the Vice President can vote in the Senate. How about that? That was a lot easier. I should have written the Constitution. We wouldn't need law school. Anyway, so these last two seats are very important for the Democrats to win because it will sway a lot of legislation in favor of the Democrats because Kamala Harris can always break that tie. Now, that does not mean that the most progressive policies or the most progressive bills will make it through the Senate. It's going to be an uphill battle, but this takes some of the power away from turtleneck Mitch McConnell, and I think we can all be happy with that. What about you, Sonia? Are you happy with that?
Yeah, the turtle. I love it. Cecil the turtle, everyone. Mitch McConnell.
Turtleneck.
While we're on this, yes, Democrats will have favorable legislation coming their way if the Democrats obtain these two seats. One thing that's very important for Americans right now in Georgia and across the country, it's being promised that $2,000 are on their way if the Senate is 50 seats of Democrats. If they win in Georgia, Biden has promised, President Biden promised, we will get $2,000 to Americans, which I'm pretty sure they're just going to get the $1,400 remaining on top of the $600 that was just signed. So this is a big deal for people. While the Republican incumbents, the Georgia Senate Republicans have said they back 2,000, for me, that's a front. They're only doing it to suck on Big Daddy's toe, meaning Donald Trump's toe. They're ass kissers. This is a big deal. They just say it out loud, but will Mitch McConnell let it happen? No. If the Senate's take over and get a tie with the Republicans, Kamala Harris comes in, boom, $2,000 in the pockets of American adults. That's a big deal.
Okay. You're far more generous than I am because what the fuck does this mean? What Biden says that there might be a third stimulus check if Democrats win Congress. So are you holding the American people hostage? Or are you holding these $2,000 checks hostage in order to get your people into office? Because if you can't browbeat the Republicans into passing $2,000 stimulus checks, then why the hell do I want you in office if you're not going to do anything for the American people? You're going to get your ass handed, and by you I mean Joe Biden. You and your party can get your ass handed in 2022 in the next election, the next midterm campaign, and we're not going to get anything done. So if you can't get anything done in the next 2 years, why even give you a chance? I have buyer's remorse not even vote for that. I'm sorry. This type of language to me is just completely unacceptable.
I loathe President Joe Biden, President-elect Joe Biden. I loathe him. I think he's a fraud. What I will say is Joe Biden, he likes to please conservatives, the Republican Party. It's actually rumored that he was a part of the $900 billion stimulus check that just passed. So if you got $600 in your checks, if you're on unemployment, you got $300, or you're going to get $300 additional dollars every week. Biden stepped in, apparently. This is a rumor that he stepped in and he negotiated this deal. So
he negotiated it down.
Yeah. Well, I want you to take over from there. But here's the thing about it. Joe Biden plays nice with the Republicans because he knows he's been in the game so long, and he knows that he wants to work with them to get the crumbs to the American people. That's politics 101. That's the neoliberal establishment. He represents the status quo. And so he knows how to play out nice with Republicans so they can give and take. Right now, what he's saying in that article you showed, if the Senate is taken over by Democrats, what it means is Biden can do things easily. But since he likes to play nice with Republicans, he's not going to push the Republicans or fight them because he doesn't see it as realistic. This is his mindset, and it's boring. It's against the will of the people. So yes, I agree. He's not going to fight, but he doesn't want to put up a fight when he has to hurt the people he likes to favor, the Republican Party. He's a Republican light figure. And so people need to know this. But Miguel, what do you mean he lowered our deal down? I mean, $900 billion, that's significant. We covered this on this channel before, but what are you talking about, buddy?
No, dude, you just sprung this on me. I didn't have time to pull up the article, because there are articles where what's his face, Josh Hawley and Bernie Sanders were arguing, we're pushing for $1,200 checks in the second stimulus bill that just passed last month, that was finally signed on the 30th. On the 30th, yeah, on the 30th. 31st, second, on the second. I'm sorry, on the second. And Joe Biden actually argued instead of taking the 1,200, instead of pushing for the 1,200, that Congress should just accept the 600. I wish you had told me this first. I need to go look at that article. That's fine. If you can find it in the meanwhile, because I'm going to segue this into Nancy Pelosi. Please find that. Okay, so Tony, what he's hinting at here is there was previously a stimulus bill that was offered, that was counter-offered by the Trump White House in October, and that had a price tag. I'm sharing it. They had a price tag of originally of $1.5 trillion, roughly. Nancy Pelosi wanted $2.2 trillion as the second stimulus package. The first one was the CARES Act. This is the second one. This one would have taken effect just before the election, just before. So the Trump administration came back and made an offer for $1.8 trillion stimulus offer, which included $400 federal unemployment benefits and $1,200 direct payments. So we could have had another $1,200 before the election. And I know, Tony, you know this, I know this, a lot of people are suffering. Even if we're still working, we know someone who isn't lucky to be getting a weekly or bi-weekly check. So $1,200 would have been extremely important. And yes, it would have swayed votes to Trump, because it would have been money coming directly from him. And here's the horrible, horrible thing that Pelosi did. With this counteroffer from the Trump administration, which did include $400 for unemployment benefits and $1,200 stimulus, second round of stimulus checks, Nancy Pelosi, I hate this lady, she rejected that offer. And to this day, she actually still defends that by calling it not a mistake. She defended her rejection of the Trump administration $1.8 trillion stimulus, and then she threw her support for a stimulus package that was half of that. So the one that passed on the 2nd of January was for $908 billion, and that included $600 stimulus checks and $300 unemployment benefits. So why did she do this? Here, this is the part that pisses me off. Because she wanted Joe Biden to win. So this article on the 4th, in an interview, Pelosi said that she backed smaller stimulus because Biden had won, and she rejected an offer. I'm sorry, that by rejecting the higher offer, that was a mistake. So Pelosi paints it as a way of new beginnings, of saying there's a new president and we have a vaccine, we'll be able to get more done. But you could have passed the stimulus, people were suffering. The second one, before the election, Trump still would have lost. He just got blown out. He lost by 7 million votes. And the stimulus, while being good, while would have given him some votes, it was not enough to overcome the month of damage that Trump had done to the economy and to people's lives by not acting first on this virus. I think that was just a huge miscalculation by Nancy Pelosi in rejecting the first $1.8 trillion stimulus package right before the election, which had $1,200 stimulus, in favor for this $900 billion proposal stimulus actually that passed, and only had $600 stimulus check. So Tony, I know you want to share Joe Biden's role in that, please.
I could not find. I know this is being said around. I cannot find anything that is stating Joe Biden had a work in on this $900 billion stimulus bill that passed, the one that everyone's upset about that got tied into the omnibus bill. The algorithm likes to bury stuff, or maybe I'm not good at searching stuff, but it is still rumored Joe Biden was a part of negotiating with the Republicans. I mean, he's the incoming president. He probably talked to Mitch McConnell. These guys know each other. Sorry, I could not find that article. Can I defend Nancy Pelosi for a moment?
No, because because the 1.8 trillion also included 500 billion in funds for cash-strapped states and local governments, as well as aid money for the post service. And mind you, bro, this was right before the election when we knew Trump was trying to undermine the post office and run it bankrupt. So the post office, right before the election, needed money. They needed us to stop mailing stuff. It also had money for rental assistance and coronavirus testing. And Nancy Pelosi thought it her duty to reject any help for the American people, for the states, for the post office, in order to see Trump lose. And who knows what untold amount of pain she caused, or not caused, but pain she allowed to happen by rejecting the second stimulus package and instead going for the second proposal, which is half of that. All right, Tony, so I'm going to have to look for that article. I think I know where to find it.
Right now, it's very difficult to really find it. Now, I'm not making this stuff up. Miguel want to be fact-checked, but it just, Biden has his inside sources. He's not some kind of outsider, so I'm confident that this rumor is true. But let's remember, I always have to go back a couple steps. Yes, Nancy Pelosi played politics with the American lives. Nancy Pelosi could have just accepted the $1.8 trillion deal that Steve Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, and President Donald Trump presented to Democrats. Said, you know what? We can get Republicans behind this bill. Now, there was still speculation that Mitch McConnell and other senators, Republican senators, would not bite. So it was still like a front. It was a fraudulent attempt, because even if Nancy Pelosi would have accepted that move, the $1.8 trillion, the table would have been turned to Mitch McConnell. This was bad because Mitch McConnell doesn't care. I don't think he folds under political pressure like Democrats do. That guy doesn't even blink, probably. So that's kind of where I'm coming at with defending, where Nancy Pelosi is much more to blame. And this goes along with all the other Democrats that voted for the CARES Act. The CARES Act, which was one of the biggest $1 trillion stimulus bill ever passed back in March and April. That bill itself was the leverage given away by all the Democrats. Yes, Americans got $1,200 a check, stimulus check. And yes, unemployment was extended $600. But as I discussed here before, you gave trillions to corporations while you only gave Americans a measly $1,200 check. And then you decided we'll revisit it later. Yes, they did pass the HEROES Act, which was $3 trillion. But Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats gave up all their leverage on that first bill. They should have not folded. Now, Bernie Sanders fought for 600 unemployment. But the fact that they only gave $1,200. They should have had a long-term plan, and they failed. So this idea that we're going to revisit with a Republican Party that doesn't give a damn about setting up infrastructure or spending in a crisis, that was a failed mistake. They don't know how to be aspired for more. They know how to settle like punks. And the Republicans always are pie in the sky. They love to reach for everything. I mean, think about it. They will uphold and shut down the government. They will threaten the government shutdown for everything they want. Democrats, no, they're too good. They play too nice. So I blame the Democrats from the very beginning. They should have followed Representative Rokana. He wanted to give you $2,000 every month during this pandemic. Every adult, and I think even working teenagers, this guy was going out there. But he's doing what social democratic societies are doing. No, not socialist societies. Miguel, do you have any luck on that article? I'm telling you, it's pretty hard. I do have some updates on the Georgia election.
Yes, I do actually. Can you please take us to that? So it's in a New York Times report, and New York Times, I've reached my free viewings of the New York Times in this month already, and it's only the 5th. So I have to search it somewhere else. But please give us an update on, first, check the chat. I sent you something privately, and then second, please give us a result when you're ready to go.
All right. Let's see where we are. Here we are. Just for those of you tuning in, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. Right now, we are following live the election results in Georgia. The Democrats have the opportunity to take 2 Senate seats. And those 2 Senate seats right now are being held by Republicans, Kelly Loeffler and Perdue. These are Republican incumbents. Warnock and Ossoff are leading, but at a small margin at this point. Just a couple minutes ago, about 10 minutes ago, Warnock had a 7-point lead, while Ossoff had a similar 6 and 5-point lead. Now, the margins are closing in. See, Warnock was leading 57% to Loeffler's 43%. Now their only difference is about 40,000 votes. And this is 60% reporting. This race is coming this much closer. That's why we don't celebrate too soon. And it gets worse for Ossoff. That's about a 20,000 vote difference. Damn. That's intense. Wow.
It is. Will the establishment strike back, which is funny because Ossoff is of the establishment. He's a corporate Democrat. Okay, I found it.
Oh, here we go. Uncle Joe.
What everyone is before. Let me go ahead and share. God, we got to get better at sharing. Okay, New York Times article. Pandemic aid bolsters Biden and shows potential path for his agenda in Congress. Now, this is very important. He's known as an austere legislator. So what that means is he likes to hold the pocketbook closed. He doesn't like to open it up. Or in Spanish, it's pinche codo el way. All right, for anyone wondering out there. And this article is from December 22nd, so it's a few days, it's about a week or two before the stimulus check was signed by Donald Trump. That gave us the $600 stimulus checks and then the $300 weekly unemployment boost. Working together with the president-elect, bipartisan groups in the Senate and the House help push feuding leaders to compromise. It could be a template for the future. Now, this excerpt down here is extremely important because it reads, with Republican and Democratic leaders in the House and Senate far apart on how much they were willing to accept in new pandemic spending. Mind you, this is the second stimulus check after the CARES Act that was passed in April. So between April through December, I mean, we're talking, what is that? That's 8 months worth, 7-8 months worth of not having an additional stimulus, and people are suffering. The article continues. Mr. Biden on December 2nd, threw his support behind the $900 billion plan being pushed by the centrist group. The total was less than half of the $2 trillion that Speaker Pelosi and Senator Chuck Schumer, Democrat of New York, had been insisting on. Mr. Biden's move was now without risk. If it had failed to affect the discussion, the president-elect risked looking powerless to move Congress before he had taken the oath of office. But members of both parties said his intervention was constructive and gave Democrats confidence to pull back on their demands. Joe Biden is the reason why you all received $600 as a stimulus check instead of $1,200. He's at least the first reason. The second reason might have been Mitch. Fine, we can make that argument. You can say, you know what, Mitch would have blocked it, but let Mitch block it. Don't let Biden be the one who lowers your stimulus check, your stimmy check, as we like to call it here. By the way, los comales, $1 taco, pesos, I got 100 tacos. What's up?
I had 600.
600. I'm sorry.
I was like, wait, what happened to the other 100?
my math was off. But that goes to show you that what we're going with Nancy Pelosi by accepting a lower stimulus and by rejecting a higher stimulus and accepting a lower stimulus, and then by Biden pushing for that lower stimulus, we're in for a rough 4 years. Most likely we're rough for the next 2 years are going to be extremely rough. Forget the next 4 years. So there it is, Tony. I was able to find it. Pat me on the back.
That'd be so cool if my hand just showed up on your screen. One day the world will realize the need for that. A virtual pat on the back. Here we are, though. On one side, the Democrats are not going to recognize their fault in any of this. So it's always easy to point blame at the boogeyman, which is obviously Mitch McConnell and the Republican Party. But there has to be transparency and accountability in these political moments. I don't know, man. It just seems, Miguel, do you remember when Trump was elected and kind of the blame was put on the voters of Trump, right? Trump's voters. They are responsible for Trump and they have to accept that responsibility. All the crap that he does from now on, Trump voters have to accept that responsibility. Do you recall this?
Look, I hate Trump and I hate Biden. I will never shame any voter. No one, even if you voted for Biden, I will not shame anyone. But yeah, I do remember that.
There was a lot of voter shaming during that time. And it went on for 4 years. If you are voting for Trump, there was a lot of shaming. There was a lot of guilt tripping. It was their fault, and they need to be held accountable. Now, and then most recently, I remember AOC and some other Democrats, they promoted the idea of not doxing people who are Trump supporters, but making sure we take their names down. And there's to some extent, I agree, taking people's names down. That way we have on the record when they did it. But to some extent, I think it got out of hand where they were releasing people's information. There was this idea that we release people's information. I don't know how far it got, but people online were going crazy. Voter shaming needs to stop on my end. But the hypocrisy of all this is if the Biden administration does bad things, no blame will go to the Black voters in certain states, the Latino voters in certain states, the women voters in certain states. So the marginalized communities that voted for Biden, they will take no accountability. There will be no shaming on their behalf. And I agree with Miguel. We shouldn't be shaming people. But this kind of hypocrisy needs to end. The establishment, the system, the structures are the really fault of all of this. But it's a slap in the forehead to know that Biden is making these $900 billion deals, these low ball deals, just to play favor with the Republicans. And us as voters, Democratic voters, we become loyal. And there's no accountability. It's just like a nod. And we become the very thing that people have loathed for the past 4 years, the obsession of Trump supporters, the sycophants, right? But then we become so so in love, so romanticized with the idea there's people of color in the Biden administration. This is going to be a good 4 years because of that. No, we're already seeing what it's happening. And we got a whole 4 years to cover this. But it's sickening that people are struggling, and we're going to have to wait till after January 21st to see what Biden can do for the American people, because he wants another stimulus package. Is it going to happen with Democrats in control of the Senate and the House? More likely. What's it going to look like with Republicans? He's already going to give up on a $2,000 check if Republicans hold the Senate. What else is he going to fold on? Just so much going on there. I don't know what to expect. Okay, we win the Senate in Georgia, then what? Are Ossoff and Warnock? I have a little more faith in Warnock. He calls the politicians gangsters. But I'm not sure about Ossoff.
Yeah. Yep. Which leads us into the next issue we want to talk about. Oh, any updates, please?
Yeah, let's look at where we are. These numbers are coming in, everyone. So remember, if you're watching us, we greatly appreciate your viewership. Please make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and make sure to like, comment, share on Facebook. We want to create more content. We want to engage in conversation. And here are the updates for the Georgia Senate election race. This is according to the New York Times. Here we are. Yeah, it looks like Warnock is keeping a steady lead. You know, he dropped significantly from like 7% lead, a 7-point lead to a 1.2 lead, and it's at 65% reported. Ossoff is still at half a point lead. So look at these numbers. That's not fun, everyone. That's too close for anyone to celebrate. And let's see where this goes, right? We have some more time, but we're gonna cover this. We want to let you know what's going on. We hope you hear it here first. Pay attention. This might lay out what the Biden administration will look like. And at that point, if the Democrats win the Senate seats in Georgia, guess what? We better expect the most out of a Biden administration. This guy promised a whole bunch of things, right? He wants to help impoverished communities. He wants to relieve student debt. You know, he wants to help people purchase homes. He wants to make public community colleges free for certain people of certain incomes, right? Minimum wage. Public community colleges, he wants them to be tuition free for certain families within income range.
Who? Biden?
Joe Biden. Yeah.
I hate the whole means testing. It's so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
It should be universal. I agree. But these are things they ran on. So if Georgia is won by the Democrats, it's the true test of the voters to see if the Biden administration can do everything that he can to make lives better for Americans across this country. And if he doesn't, and we lose the House in 2 years, guess whose fault that would be? That would be the fault of the Democratic establishment, the Biden administration, etc.
So here you have in the presidency. I'm so sorry. In the presidency, you have Joe Biden, who's very austere. So you're going to have right at the helm someone who doesn't know how to steer the ship, and then you have his first captain, which is Kamala Harris. She's not going to be much help because she's just going to be taking orders from Joe Biden. And then you have the other deputy. You have Nancy Pelosi. And as we've seen, she's 80, by the way. And her political, I'm not saying here that, I'm not trying to be ageist. She just doesn't have it in there anymore. It's probably ageist. I don't give a fuck. And then you have Nancy Pelosi, who, as we've seen, her political instincts are rejecting a $1.8 trillion stimulus package to watch the incumbent president, lose, even though it would help millions of people, just to make sure that her guy gets in. And then when her guy gets in, she doesn't even show any side of remorse, any bit of remorse for her horrible, horrible dealings. So it's just going to be bad all around. And the spread you just showed me, the spread between John Ossoff and David Perdue, it's been getting closer, correct?
Oh my God. It's a point. I'm sorry. It's a point. Oh, that's not the one.
Oh. Please subscribe to the Existentialists. We have a lot of fun goodies on there.
Yes. This is what we're looking right in the screen right now. 50.10% in the lead, Ossoff, the Democratic challenger. That's a 0.1% lead. 0.1%. No, I'm doing point. Yeah, all right, whatever. That's so close. That's neck and neck right now. That's all that is. That's a neck and neck race. And that's Ossoff versus Perdue. So fine. Let's say Ossoff loses. Okay. We still have to deal with trying to keep Warnock. And look, Warnock's lead is closing in. And to understand how this is happening, I'm going to show you a little of the geographic landscape of what it looks like in these counties that are voting, right? So they're almost coming neck to neck. This was expected. 65% reporting. This is Loeffler versus...
Yeah, go ahead.
We're right here. These are the results, county by county, that are leaning in Georgia, right? The blue areas are going to be denser populations, right? These are usually where the more people that are there, they're usually Democratic run for the most part. And so you see the more red space, those are more rural, open space areas. I don't know Georgia that well, but that's typically the case across the country. And so it looks like red across the state. But in those blue areas, in like Atlanta, those are the dense populations. That's where you got a lot of people supporting Democratic candidates. And so as you see in the white and the gray areas, these are the times where Republicans have their comeback. If they're not so dense, they're likely to lean Republican. There's reports that Latinos on the ground are coming in large numbers. African Americans on the ground are coming in large numbers. But is it enough to sustain a victory against the red wave of the Republican Party? Trump knows how to excite his base. Yes, Georgia was given to Biden by a couple hundred, no, 100-something thousand votes, right? And yes, Trump tried to steal the election by talking to the Secretary of State in Georgia. That video is damning. Check it out yourself. Trump is just talking out of his ass. He's good at that, but he makes him sound like a criminal when he talks too much. So that's that county. And then we have below Perdue versus Ossoff. Look at this. Only within a couple of seconds, maybe a minute of me explaining what's happening, David Perdue is now the leading contender in the Senate race against John Ossoff. The Republican incumbent is winning by what? 0.5%, under 4.5%. That's 66% reporting. That's a 1% reporting, and the Republican candidate caught up. I mean, let me go back to what Warnock is like. Okay, Warnock is still in the lead. Loeffler is pretty crazy, I gotta say. But yeah, look, we can go into every county. It gets interesting, but I'm not the expert on checking these numbers and analyzing them. Ladies and gentlemen, we might just get one Senate seat. We might, but it's neck and neck. So let's talk about the implications of having a Democratic Senate. Biden administration could do a lot with 2 Georgia Senate seats. But even when the Democrats have political power, they still fail us. I would expect nothing different if the Democrats won these 2 seats in Georgia and they keep on failing the American people, because they just recently did it before, obviously. Miguel, I'm very saddened by this loss.
Okay, so there's only one person to blame. You can only blame each candidate, whoever loses, if it's Loeffler or Perdue. I honestly think, and I want Loeffler to lose, because I want her to be indicted for insider trading. There's a whole crazy story how right before the stock market crash, right before the virus wreaked havoc on our economy. Her and her husband sold off a bunch of stocks that they had and invested in other stocks. Some of those stocks were stocks that would later benefit from the virus, the shutdowns, and the ones that they sold off suffered because of it. So she made a shit ton of money in just a few weeks before and after the virus shut down our economy. So she should definitely, and she is in the position of power. She shouldn't have stocks to begin with. So because she has access to a lot of information that we're not privy to, that the general population doesn't have, but she was able to make a shit ton of money. She should really be indicted and sent to prison for a long time, her and her husband. I want to share a quick video, especially about John Ossoff. I really despise this guy because he is one of those corporate Democrats that when I look at him, I see Pete Buttigieg, and what I see in Pete Buttigieg and John Ossoff is they're trying to emulate Barack Obama to a T, and I despise that shit because these guys are not genuine, and on top of that, their politics are shit. I want to show this quick video from Axios, and it's actually from November 9th. And in this quick article, there's sound. It's the interviewer in this Axios interview asked John Ossoff a quick speed round question. What's your stance on this issue and this issue? This is very important. This is very telling. Okay.
Let me just do a speed round with you.
Okay.
If I can. Do you support the Green New Deal?
No.
Okay. Green New Deal. We are in the midst of. We need to save our planet within the next few decades. We don't even have that much time left, really, to reverse any of the negative effects that climate change has unfortunately bestowed upon our country, so our nation, our Earth. I'm sorry. So he's not in support of helping deter some of those effects. Fine.
Do you support Medicare for all?
No.
Now, it is Medicare for all. He could have easily said, I'm not in support of Medicare for all, but I am in support of single payer. And in the middle of a pandemic, if you're not in support of a single payer, where our people are suffering, where 14 million, I think it's 14 or 19 million people have lost their private insurance because they've lost their jobs. If you're not in favor of covering those people, you're heartless. I'm sorry. Does he support statehood? Yeah, I don't care about this.
Do you support Puerto Rican statehood?
Yes.
Do you support defunding the police?
No.
I mean, what after a tumultuous year of 2020 of Black Lives Matter and just huge social movements, for this guy to come out against defunding the police, you can tell how the progressive wing, the left, in those 5 questions, 3 of them he's not the progressive base off. He just doesn't want anything to do with them. Here comes the 4th one.
Do you support abolishing ICE?
No.
Do you support expanding the Supreme Court?
No.
Okay, so abolishing ICE. We already have border patrol. You don't need ICE. ICE, that's Immigration Customs Enforcement. That's just another agency that was created and just thrown money at. We really don't need it. So with that fourth answer, he's telling the progressives, I'm not with you. And then the next one, do you support packing the Supreme Court? So that means expanding the Supreme Court from its 9 current numbers to 10, 11, 12, and then you throw a Democrat-leaning justices to the Supreme Court, and you can overwhelm the Republican vote. What is that? That's 4 or 5. That's 5. With 5 answers, he's already telling the progressive base, I'm not with you. And he's a Democrat.
Do you support ending the filibuster?
Maybe.
Maybe what? Maybe ending the filibuster when the Democrats are in power, but you let the Republicans have it? I mean, that's a weak soft answer.
Okay, tell me more.
And honestly, I'm done after that interview. So in those few questions, John Ossoff, being a Democrat, just showed that the most progressive legislation and policy ideas that Joe Biden can try to implement, he won't support. And you're in the middle of a pandemic. Climate change is wreaking havoc. There's still a problem with police abuse and police killings. We don't need ICE. And on top of that, what else did he say? If electing Amy Coney Barrett was such a horrible thing to the Supreme Court. Not electing her, but confirming her to the Supreme Court was such a disastrous event, and you're not in support of packing the court, then you really can't say her confirmation was that bad if you're not willing to support packing the court. By the way, if John Ossoff loses, this is all his fault. He's centrist. He's a milquetoast, bland Democrat. He's a Pete Buttigieg. He's a copy of Barack Obama. He's pinche Beto Oro, who I despise. They should just. I don't care if he loses his race.
Right. But what's going to happen is Ossoff or Warnock or both lose. Guess who's going to be blamed for all of this? The progressive movement, the leftists, Bernie Sanders, AOC. They're all going to be blamed. They're the enemy of the Democratic Party to the establishment Democrats. The idea that Black Lives Matter, that's already being placated as a reason why Democrats lost seats in the Congress. This is just absurd to know that. Good riddance to Ossoff if he isn't with the moment. Good riddance. But guess what? Progressives are still showing out to support them. This is the insanity of this whole process. People that vote with the Democratic Party, they will always choose the lesser of two evils and vote for the Democrats because their interests are more aligned. Not even closely aligned, just more aligned. They'll give up their pride, their interests, their beliefs just to support a party that will turn around and spit in their face. It's in 69% reporting, just so everyone can see. This is where we are. Make sure you subscribe to us on the Existentialists on YouTube. We're giving you the Georgia election results right now live. This is on the New York Times. Loeffler is ahead of Warnock by 0.3%. And Purdue now holds a 1% lead over Ossoff. No, I'm sorry. 1.1% over Ossoff. 69% reporting. This all started. We started this live stream 50 minutes ago. Warnock and Ossoff were in the lead by over 5%. Or 5 points, I'm sorry. I keep saying percent. They were in the lead by 5 points. Yeah, so they're neck and neck right now. There's still a chance. It's obvious that Loeffler and Purdue lied about their Democratic opponents. They convinced Georgia voters that they're radical, that they're the enemy of the people. They believe in socialism. They want to get rid of capitalism. And here, Miguel and I, yes, I will admit I'm a leftist. Miguel, I don't know what the hell he is. He's Miguel. But Miguel is honest enough with me to critique both political power players, the Republicans and the Democrats, even the progressives that we like. We're willing to come out and tell the truth. Miguel just played a video about Ossoff, showing that he is not with the progressive movement. But Purdue wants to make him look like he's with the progressive movement. Loeffler wants to make the people know that Warnock is with the progressive movement. Look, they're using those things to convince Georgia voters not to vote Democrats. So that's why the Democratic Party is going to use those reasons, Black Lives Matter, defund ICE or abolish ICE. They're going to use those reasons to make it look like the progressives are the reason why Republicans win in Georgia. And on and on and on, right? Every election, it's going to be progressive's fault. Bernie Sanders, damn you. Damn.
Speaking of, all right, let's move on. I think we'll come back to the Senate elections in Georgia. I was disappointed, Tony, and I want to make this really quick because I ramble on too much, and I hope you can agree with me that I ramble on too much. I will be more concise. On the 3rd, which was a Sunday, the Speaker of the House election was held in Congress, and that was the first day, the first hour of the new Congress being sworn in, the 117th Congress. And back in 2020, so I think in November, December, both parties had their nominations, and the Democrats nominated Speaker Pelosi, which would be what would be her fourth term, and the Republicans they offered up Kevin McCarthy. And now we talk about force to vote. Force to vote was a pressure campaign to have progressives. That means AOC, Jamal Bowman, who is new to Congress, Cori Bush, who is new to Congress, Rashida Tlaib, Pramila Jayapal, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, Marie Newman, Chuy Garcia. I just gave you 9 names at that moment. I just gave you 9 names. Okay, 9 progressives to withhold their vote from Nancy Pelosi from becoming Speaker of the House for this upcoming congressional period, and force her to put Medicare for all on the floor for a vote. And turns out Nancy Pelosi won. She won re-election, but the margin was closer than everyone thought. So Nancy Pelosi, she was elected Speaker of the House on the 3rd of January with 216 votes. 5 Democrats did not vote for her, and you have Jason Golden, Connor Lamb, Mikey Sherrill, Eliza Slotnick, and Abigail Sandberg. Now, these 5 are not progressive Democrats. They are centrist Democrats who withheld their vote from Nancy Pelosi. And Kevin McCarthy was his face. Republican. He only earned, it's not in here, but he earned 209 votes. And the threshold to win was 214 votes because there was only 427 representatives present on the House floor. So the election was not going to go to who had the most votes, but who actually got the majority of the votes. That sounds very weird. But if Kevin McCarthy reached 213 votes, as long as he didn't reach that majority, that 214 votes, he would not become Speaker of the House. And it's naturally impossible for a Republican in the 117th Congress to become Speaker of the House because the Democrats have that majority. They have over that 214, or they have that majority where there are not 214 Republicans in the House to vote for Kevin McCarthy. So Nancy Pelosi's vote was secured. She could not lose it unless enough progressives withheld their vote. And honestly, just from what we talked in the last hour, the fact that Nancy Pelosi, she's harmful. She hates progressives. We talked a few weeks ago about how she withheld the vote she stole that committee seat from Pelosi and gave it to the New York rep. Do you remember her name?
Oh man, this is the same representative that stood up against Pelosi 2 years ago.
So I can't remember, but so that New York representative, the one that beat out AOC for a committee seat, she withheld her vote 2 years ago. Now she was threatening to withhold it again. She got the committee seat, and now look at that. She's not one of the 5 Democrats who voted against Pelosi. She actually voted for Pelosi. She got the seat, then she gave her the vote. Like, that's how you do it. You withhold your power, then you vote, right? Then you release the Kraken. AOC on her. Okay. So as I was saying, because 427 representatives voted for someone by name, 214 votes were required for the speaker to be elected. So I gave you 9 progressive names. 9 names. If all 9 would have withheld their votes and they would have said, we're not voting present, we're not voting absent, we're going to vote for Tammy Duckworth. And with other votes, the ballot will have to go to a second round and we'll have to vote all over again. And we won't vote for you again until you give us committee seats until you get rid of PAYGO, which is now been eliminated, or until you give us a Medicare for all vote, or if you, I don't know, another $2,000 stimulus check that we'll vote on a week from now. If the progressives had done that, we would have gotten something. But every single progressive, those 9, fell in line. AOC got screwed over by Pelosi. She voted for Pelosi. Cory Bush came and voted for Pelosi. Chuy Garcia, I'm sorry, I know he's your rep, but that dude is such an establishment hack. He will side with the establishment, which makes sense with the machine because he's from Chicago. He fell in line. Jamal Bowman from New York fell in line. Ayanna Pressley fell in line. Pramila Jayapal fell in line. Barbara Lee fell in line. Marie Newman fell in line, and she's my rep. She's just, we'll get to her right now, but they're all just falling. Ro Khanna fell in line.
Out of all the people, I expected him not to. Ro Khanna.
10 progressives. You know Nancy Pelosi is hostile to progressive. She's hostile to progressive legislation. She screwed Americans by not taking the second stimulus offer. She screwed AOC out of a committee seat. And if you don't believe us, go watch the video. We lay it all out there. Why the F does Nancy Pelosi, she's been a horrible, horrible speaker. Her favorability ratings are lower than Donald Trump. Hers are in the mid to high 20s. Donald Trump has low to mid 40s favorability ratings. Why the hell does she deserve another speakership role? She doesn't. And the progressives, instead of withholding their vote and getting something from it, all of them caved and they all voted for it. There was not one defection, not one progressive politician defected. While at these 5, the only defections were 5 corporate Democrats. The Senate's fucked, the House is fucked, the executive is fucked. We are fucked for these next 2 years. And even if AOC, even if the squad got something in return for their vote, if they don't make it public, we'll never know what she got. And Nancy Pelosi can do some political jujitsu and just beat them out. So you have to make it public. You have to know what you want, what you got in return for your vote. Otherwise, it's moot. It doesn't matter. We're not going to get anything out of it. Tony, I'm done.
It's very confusing because progressives, they want transparency. They hate the secrecy. They hate government backroom deals. But apparently, it's okay to be in secret about what Nancy Pelosi did for all of you progressives to give her your vote. What are you getting out of it? Is she giving you more funding? Is she making the Democratic arm that raises money? Are you getting money from them now? Are they going to help you? Is that what's going on? You're going to pay for play kind of thing? Tell us the truth. I think they owe us that at the least. Because look, we can turn against these progressive champions, or we can just hold them accountable to an extent. Or there could be an extreme on either side. But is there a middle ground? I'm for a middle ground, but I do believe in calling them out, holding their feet to the fire. Miguel, you brought up Mary Newman, and I went into our archives. We had Mary Newman on when she won November 3rd. And here she is. It's a little scratchy, the audio, mostly because Mary Newman was in a party, a victory party in her office. And this is me asking her a question. She had just finished answering what she's going to do to make sure she listens to progressive grassroots groups, right? The movements that helped her win. She just said there is a committee, a setup, so then she can always keep a communication with people. Where forced the vote landed with those groups in her, we don't know. But let's see what she says about holding Nancy Pelosi accountable. Miguel.
Oh, before we get to that, I through the Existentialist Twitter, and I actually started tweeting at her, forced to vote for Medicare for all. Now, mind you, I did it extremely too late. I only did it, I think, 2 days before she was sworn in. But I noticed as soon as I started doing it, I saw an increased number of people also commenting on her Twitter. She never responded to any of our comments. She did respond to when people were congratulating her for being sworn in or being a member of Congress. But to any push Now, mind you, I get it. It's Twitter. You know, you can easily ignore Twitter. But if you're reading some comments and ignoring others, that tells me, are you even listening to your people? Twitter is another way for us to communicate with elected officials. And if they're just going to also just blindly ignore us out of that, besides, so what happens when I call you? If I call your office, you're probably going to ignore me. If I write letters, you're not going to read those. So yeah, you should really go check out her Twitter. She has two. She has Congresswoman Marie Newman, and then she has her personal Marie Newman one. And both you can see in the last few days, people hammering her about forcing a vote and why did she vote for Nancy Pelosi. And she just ignores those comments. She's my rep, all right? I'm already pissed off at her, and I will hold her feet to the fire. We should honestly just do weekly segments where we look at these people voting record over the last week, just to see what damage they've done to our country. Please go ahead.
Hell yes, we should. I'm part of an organization that backed Mary Newman. So me as a member, I'm going to hold her accountable.
Oh, y'all better regret that. Y'all better regret that because that was some bullshit.
There's a lot to regret in this game. But here,
honestly, if that organization doesn't keep pushing her for the next 2 years, they're not shit. And I know I'm not going to say her name right because they don't need to be called out right now. But mind you, that organization endorsed Dick Durbin too. Dick Durbin is a piece of shit. We know that.
Yes.
Okay? All right. I'm sorry.
Let's see this Mary Newman clip with the Existentialists. That's Miguel and myself. Let's see what she says in this video about Nancy Pelosi. Come on, where are we? Screen. Here we are. So me and Miguel, we run this show, the Existentialists. After your victory, we invite you to come on and speak with us about legislation you care about, issues that are gonna involve our community. So
you vote on bills in a specific way in order to be called a member of the Progressive Caucus. So what that does is that creates accountability, right? So I'm super pleased that I'm voting yes for that. And all of those rule changes, and I think that that very large group will power in numbers, right?
Come on and speak with us about legislation you care about, issues that are going to involve our community. So please give us the moment when you have a chat with us. There's a quieter crowd, but I do have a hard question for you. Here it is.
Sure.
Okay, one hard question because I know you're celebrating. Right now, our House leader is Nancy Pelosi. I don't want you to attack Nancy Pelosi. If you want to, you can do that. But what are we going to do about a leader that pushes back so often against progressive values, that puts AOC in line? What can we do? How can we help them? What's your strategy?
Well, here's the good news. There's always power in numbers, right? So we're adding about 15 very progressive members of Congress. And
okay, power in numbers, but they didn't use those numbers to force the vote. Let's just, I hate doing the Jimmy Dore thing where we take every little thing, every little sentence, and we go in. She just said we need power in numbers. They didn't use it to force the vote. Instead, they gave their power in numbers to support Nancy Pelosi. Let's go on. Oh, go ahead, Miguel. You're muted.
I'm sorry. And before, like I'm saying, even if you have those numbers, even if you get something behind closed doors, if you don't bring out those concessions out behind those closed doors and make it public, Nancy Pelosi won't be tied to anything. And it's you have to make your discussion. All your discussions cannot be behind closed doors because Nancy Pelosi is a master of that. You're new to Congress. You, as progressives, you have the bully pulpit. You have the public behind you. If Nancy Pelosi has the public screaming at her, that's going to do a lot more than you cutting backroom deals and giving her your vote to her. Please continue with the next part.
Let's see where else she goes with this.
You're expanding the Progressive Caucus. We are also changing the rules in the Progressive Caucus, and you can look at an Intercept article to learn more about that. But what it'll effectively do is require that you vote on bills in a specific way in order to be called a member of the Progressive Caucus. So what that does is that creates accountability, right? So I'm super pleased that I'm voting yes for that. and all of those rule changes. And I think that group, that very large group, will give us more power with leadership, whether it is the speaker or anyone in leadership, to say, look, we don't agree with you. And no, we don't think your strategy is right. And guess what? There's more of us than there is of you. So,
Okay. She's going to go on something else. I want her to finish that sentence. But there she is. Accountability. We're going to create a progressive caucus, a real progressive caucus. I'm doing the air quotes. And it's a way to have accountability. Because if we stick together, there's a certain way we want each other to vote. That means they had a conversation and they said, oh, we all have to vote for Nancy Pelosi. They all took a knee and they all agreed on it. And she said it herself, that this real progressive caucus, which for me, it is a real progressive caucus, but it loses efficacy. Shout out to Vosh. It loses efficacy when you all were aligned with the idea that our values are centered around protecting the power of Nancy Pelosi. I want to see what she says. And then Miguel, I know you want to unload on your representative, Mary Newman, but let's see her finish her sentence.
so that's the strategy.
Beautiful. I don't know how. So I liked her strategy. I really did, but that strategy showed us what we got. Make sure you check us out on the Existentialists. Subscribe to us. We're real cool people, guys. Miguel, please, you're on mute again.
Yes, sorry. It's because I love hearing your voice over mine. Please update us while I gather my thoughts on the Senate race, please, in Georgia.
Yes. Let's get there. Make sure everyone watching, thank you for viewing us. Like us on Facebook, comment. We love to see the engagement. Man, this is just getting heartbreaking. You're hoping if I upload the page every 10 seconds, I'll get better results. In the Georgia Senate runoff election, here are the results. According to the New York Times, 79% of votes are reported. Loeffler is taking a larger lead at 1.1 points. Purdue is taking a larger lead at 1.8. Now, they didn't grow too much since we last checked. That's 68%. But we are losing Georgia, it looks like right now. It's still close neck and neck. I mean, you got 50.5% for Loeffler, and Warnock got 49.4 right now. Look at that. Look at those numbers. Millions of votes are in. And there's a 40,000 votes different. That's the difference, 40,000. That's for Loeffler and Warnock. I'll tell you about the whole state turning red slowly. And see, Purdue's actually, look at that ass hat. Sorry.
Hold on. I know you're pissed, but don't despair, Tony. Don't despair. Exactly the same thing that Joel, who was on the Extreme election night, November, he told us the same. It's going to be the same phenomenon where it is the red mirage. Quickly share per the AP. You gotta let me share.
Yeah. Okay. So this is what's happening. Miguel's going to show us how, even though it looks like the Republicans are gaining a small advantage, that red mirage theory can apply here still. Mail-in votes can still gain a victory for the Democrats, but that's bad for the Republican Party and those that believe in election fraud is massive. I don't think it's that massive. What you couldn't find something?
No, that's exactly what I was going to share. You said it in a sentence, so that's the mail-in ballot. No, that's fine. It's exactly. It's just from the AP. It's saying that mail-in ballots can still be received up to 7 p.m. today, and so those still need to be processed and counted. So we will not know the results of the election tonight between Loeffler, Purdue, Ossoff, and Warnock. We'll know it most likely in the next few days. It's exactly the same thing that happened with Joe Biden and Donald Trump. So honestly, we can move on. We can move on from that.
So just so we wrap up on what's happening in the Democratic Party, we already have the progressives folding and giving in to Nancy Pelosi. We need Medicare for all. We need coverage during a pandemic. It is absurd. The Democrats, the progressive folded. They're not telling us what they got for supporting Nancy Pelosi. PAYGO is a rule that has been established. Miguel, can you walk us through PAYGO a little? How is that a victory?
PAYGO, it's not a victory. Just PAYGO, it's a limitation, a self-imposed limitation on the House of Representatives. Guess who imposed that limitation? Nancy Pelosi. It's one of those House rules that can be overridden, it can be implemented. And Nancy Pelosi implemented PAYGO not too long ago. And the premise of PAYGO is that if you're proposing a big piece of legislation, you have to account for it in the budget. So you really have to allocate how the budget will pay for that piece of legislation. Otherwise, your bill is hamstrung before it even makes it to the committee, just by that PAYGO rule. And so Nancy Pelosi and now House leadership has said that they will get rid of PAYGO for pieces of legislation like Medicare for All and the Green New Deal. However, it's contingent upon the House of Representatives, it's contingent upon that legislation being as a result of the pandemic. And all leadership needs to do is say, that doesn't fall under the pandemic. We don't need this because of the pandemic. And they can do that to the Green New Deal, and they can do that to Medicare for All, because they would just say, Medicare for All, a single payer program, isn't going to help. Like Bosch says, it doesn't help people struggling at this moment. So a big piece of legislation like Green New Deal and Medicare for All can still be subjected to PAYGO, even though they quote unquote did away with it. That's what it is in a nutshell. It's just a limitation. And again, it was implemented by Pelosi. Again, she is not a friend of progressives. Just on the simple fact that just on principle, I would not vote for her if I was an elected representative. She hasn't done anything in the last few years to deserve a re-election as Speaker of the House. Okay.
And that's where we are with the progressive movement failing to fight for the American people. We have Democratic senators, Bernie Sanders and only maybe about 5 other senators, try to help Bernie Sanders filibuster the NDAA, which was the military defense bill, about $740 billion. They wanted to filibuster it, which means they were just going to delay its passage. The Democrats could have helped Bernie Sanders in this fight to help get $2,000 to every American, but no. Instead, the majority of Democrats, Chuck Schumer, Dick Durbin, Tammy Duckworth, Kamala Harris, they all decided, let's side with Mitch McConnell and let's pass this with ease. Instead of using it as leverage, instead of playing smart politics, they caved. So that's failure from House progressives, and that's a failure from Democratic leadership in the Senate and a lot of other the majority of Democrats in the Senate. They don't want to fight. They showed it in the House, but electing Nancy Pelosi without getting anything real. And then in the Senate, they could have backed Bernie Sanders, who should be our president today, but he lost to Joe Biden. We have failure on 2 different fronts.
He didn't lose. He got screwed out of it. You completely know he got screwed out of it. Again, the establishment completely circled the wagons against Bernie. Whatever. It is what it is. I didn't even want Bernie. I was an Andrew Yang supporter. I don't know why I'm upset. Tony, I really hope that organization that you belong with, that supported Dick Durbin, I really hope you pull Kyle Kalinske and Cenk Uygur and leave that organization if they don't keep supporting the Torah's ideas. All right, so you know me. I like to cite my source. Pay as you go. Nancy Pelosi, this is from 2019. This is from The Intercept. Nancy Pelosi rammed austerity provision into House rules package over objection of progressives. Mind you, this is used to hamstring progressives. Progressive Democrats, despite pressure from progressive Democrats, the House rules package for the 116th Congress, the one that just passed, included a pay-as-you-go provision known as PAYGO, requiring all new spending to be offset with either budget cuts or tax increases a conservative policy aimed at tying the hands of the government. That was implemented by Nancy Pelosi, not by the Republicans, because they didn't have the majority in 2019. And actually, AOC actually did vote against it, or maybe even roll comment. But I'm telling you, that getting rid of PAYGO isn't a win because it's still contingent upon declaring the piece of legislation needed because of the pandemic. And all House leadership needs to do is say it's not a result of the pandemic. So it's still contingent to the rules of PAYGO.
Oh, so Nancy Pelosi is taking back her own rule, I guess, because she promised the progressives. What goes along with PAYGO? What legislation that PAYGO prevented is going to be supported in the House and in the Senate? What's going to be able to go through? So PAYGO needs to be attached to something as a real deal, but we don't know because it's secret. There's no transparency. Yeah, we are. We want fighters in our party. And I hate to say our party, but I vote Democrat most times. There are times I vote independent a lot. But I'm ashamed to vote Democrat sometimes. And Chewy, I will defend Chewy. He voted against the NDAA. He voted against it twice. He joined Bernie Sanders in that vote. But it doesn't make sense. What did you get out of voting for Nancy Pelosi? I want to know what all of these individuals got out of it. Are you getting more funding for campaigns, committee seats, promised legislation? What are we getting? But here we are back at it again. I don't know. Go ahead.
I think that's where we stand. The Progressive Caucus in the House is very limited. They themselves are handcuffing any power that they have and just muting it. And in the Senate, you only have Ed Markey and Senator Bernie Sanders. And Bernie Sanders is an incumbent, and he caucuses with a Democrat. I'm sorry, but Elizabeth Warren she's not a progressive. So unfortunately, Tony, no, she's not. Tony, we're going to have to, I think I'm good with what I've said my piece. Again, we won't know the full results of the Georgia Senate runoff election until a few days. So we've discussed quite a bit. Tony, do you have anything else? Do you want to say anything else?
Yes, let's just, we're going to end off with looking at the whatever's being reported for the Georgia Senate. Leave you with that, and then we'll report on it in posts on Twitter. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. We would love to engage with people, and right now we're going at it with our own elected representatives. So please subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Is it D2D Existentialist, or is it D Existentialist? So as D Existentialist. You can follow us on Twitter. I almost messed that up. But yes, this is an epic time. Miguel, you want to? Here we are. Follow us.
I should probably change that. I think it was taken off when I tried doing it, but it's the Existentialist. And so I post there about Julian Assange, Cori Bush when she voted for Pelosi. Here I had. Here are the votes. You have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She ended up voting for Pelosi. Ayanna Pressley voted for Pelosi. Barbara Lee voted for Pelosi. Chuy Garcia, Cori Bush voted for Pelosi. Ilhan Omar, Jamal Bowman, Jamie Raskin, whatever. Katie Porter, she's a huge progressive. Marie Newman, Mark Pocan, Pramila Jayapal. That's 12 progressives who voted for Nancy Pelosi. And it's fun. Please join us on Twitter. Shoot the shit with me. Go ahead, roast me on there. I don't care. It's a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun on Twitter. So, Tony, please do need help.
Yes, here we are. We are the Existentialists. We leave you with the standing results as of 9 p.m. Tuesday evening. it is January 5th, the Georgia Senate runoff election. It's a special election. 2 Republicans hold the Senate seat in Georgia. The Democratic challengers, they came in with fire, but it looks like they're losing at this moment. But as Miguel had stated, mail-in ballots may bring in the red mirage, making it seem like Republicans are winning. But the mail-in ballots, which are overwhelmingly Democratic voters, this will give the lead for the Democrats. But will it mean that a Biden administration controlling a Democratic Senate and a Democratic House will help the American people? Or will we see the continued failures of both a progressive movement that doesn't want to hold power accountable and a Senate majority that doesn't give a damn about getting you the help that you deserve? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Make sure you follow Twitter, subscribe YouTube, comment, share on Facebook. I'm Tony B. This is Miguel, and we are out. Peace. This is where the music drops. Dun, 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 dun.